A couple of weeks ago, Mia was pretty bad with a rope touching her back end. One of the worst that I've worked in a long time. But we've been working on it for a couple of weeks, and now she is much better when the rope touches her back end. All this is to work towards being able to drag a log, one of the common obstacles in ranch trail, and that's what we're working her towards showing. So we would put the rope touching her, put a little pressure on it until she got used to it, and then just let her wear it around a lot to get used to it. And now that that is much better after a couple of weeks of working with her like that, now it's time to get on her and attempt to drag the log again. I've done this before, and she dragged the log good until the rope touched her butt. And now I got on her, and I'm just kind of warming her up here, trotting her around, steering her around, make sure she don't give me any trouble with that. And you'll watch as I'm trotting around, I'll go over the board, over the rope that's laying on the ground, just to make sure that she is not afraid of either one of them. All this with her trying to kick at the rope, I don't believe she was ever afraid of the rope. I think she just didn't want it touching her, and had her little temper tantrum about the rope not wanting the rope to touch her butt. So now we're going to walk back over there, and we're going to pick up the rope. I'm going to drag it around a little bit in big right circles, and that way we can practice dragging and the rope not touch her. And then I'll turn a little bit a couple of times and let it come into her and make sure she's okay with that before we just go off and drag the rope to the left, where the rope just puts constant pressure on her. So I got the rope picked up. I'm going to drag with the rope long to start with. That way if she does act up, I can just let go, and it's easy to let go. And I start all the horses this way. We kind of walk big right circles and put a little pressure, pull it a little bit, and then release. So that's what I'm doing here. We're starting all the way from the beginning, pulling the log. I have drug it with her before to the right without the rope touching her. As you see, at this angle, it's not touching her. So I want to make sure she's okay with that before I put the pressure with the rope actually touching her. Right there, I'm making it move. I want to make sure she's not scared of it, not spooking of it. I like to go back and walk over it like that. That kind of gives her the confidence that it's not something to be afraid of. Make a circle, and then we'll walk out and we'll put a little pressure on it again. Make it move a little bit more. I do eventually need to get the rope shorter, make a couple coils to hold in my left hand and dally off with my right hand. That's more how we're going to pull it when we're showing. But this is the step that I go through before that. Once I have those coils in my hand and a dally, if she was to go to act off, it's just harder to let go of that. This is easy to let go if she gets really bad. There, I'm rubbing the rope on her hip. Make sure she's okay with it touching her, just touching her with the rope. Now I'm taking a little bit different angle here. There, the rope's put a little bit pressure against the hip. And then we just stopped and stood. It's basic add pressure, release pressure. There, she kind of pushed her hip away from the rope to get off of the pressure. So we'll go back forward again and we'll do it again. I just took the rope and just made one loop around the saddle horn, and then I'm just holding that loop in the rope, holding the rope in my right hand, letting the saddle horn do the pulling. Now taking a little bit different angle, so put a little pressure on her, touch her, and then take the pressure away. I've had Mia for a couple of months. She'll probably be going home pretty soon. There, it's coming in behind her, taking a little bit straighter route, so it'll come in behind her. Our goal was for her to be able to show ranch riding, ranch trail, get the beginning of some reining stuff going. And last couple of weeks, I pretty much just worked on this. This was a pretty big obstacle for her to overcome. There, it's coming in and touching on her again. I got my hand, bringing my hand around so that it will add a little bit more contact to her. Right here we steer off to the left a little bit. Rope comes into her hip. And a little bit of pressure against her hip right there. Just take it one step at a time. Make sure she's okay with it. She's not going to react real big like she was. And then take your pressure away. A couple of steps with pressure, then take the pressure away and go the other direction. She's got a really nice one-handed steering on her. Neck rein around, help a little bit with some legs. All that's really nice. As far as ranch riding, she can go show that. She's ready for that. We had to get this obstacle where she could do it, because dragging a log is pretty typical obstacle, pretty common. Just stopped a second just to kind of let her stand a minute, make sure she stands. Usually when you have to drag a log in ranch trail, they'll give you a pattern. Typically it's a figure 8 pattern. Drag it a circle left, circle right, that kind of thing, and then put the rope back where you picked it up from. That's pretty typical. But I want to make sure she takes her time, steers where we say go. There, now we're putting pressure back against her hip again. I'm doing good there. She's not pinning her ears, not kicking at the rope. In the beginning, it was like I showed in the beginning of this clip. It was pretty violent kicking. Now I'll steer off to the left again, put a little bit more pressure against the hip. There, that's good pressure, and she can see it out of her left eye there. Big step right there. Pressure's on her right hip, and she could see it out of her left eye. Around the corner to the left. Very nice. Lots of pressure on her hip right there. That's I think a 12-foot long 4x4, so it's got a little bit of weight to it. So when they pull on it and that rope comes against their hip with them pulling, that's a pretty fair amount of pressure against the hip. And they need to just ignore that and just walk on. And she's doing a pretty good job of that right here. Since the rope is long, I have to kind of hold my hand down to keep the pressure against her hip there. As I make some calls in my hand and get the board up a little bit shorter, it'll take a little bit different angle down across her hip. It'll be a little lower. But once we get where she could accept it right here, a little bit higher on her hip, then moving that pressure a little bit lower is pretty easy. Normally a non-issue. As you see there, the pressure's pushing into her pretty good, pushing into her hip. She had been out in my covered arena here wearing that rope. That was just a lunge line, is all that was. Wearing it around her hips for a couple of hours, and she was pretty sweaty just standing out there wearing the rope. In our weather right now, you get sweaty just standing. Our high temperatures have been about 100, with heat index making it about 112, 114. So it's been pretty warm just standing. There. Now I made a couple loops around the arena, left circles, so that the pressure is against her hip pretty good, and where she could see it out of her left eye. Really pleased with what I'm getting right there. And right there, I stopped, I backed up, I took the pressure off. Now I'm going to go over to the wall and put the rope over the wall. That's kind of how I leave it. That way I can go pick it up anytime on a different horse. So this is Mia. I'll put a link to her other playlists. She has been riding really good, but dragging this log has been a really big issue. And I'll put a link here so that you could see the video from when we worked her the first time with the log. Until next time, thank you for watching.